I'm Kate.
I'm Elle.
We are down to Fae, and we're continuing Breene Month with A Ruin of Roses, the first book in the deliciously dark fairy tale series by K.F. Breene.
The first 4 books in the series are a Beauty and the Beast retelling, a
Very
spicy
spicy.
retelling, and the last 2 are inspired by Red Riding Hood.
A lot like Demon Days Vampire Nights, you meet characters along the way who continue the series with their own stories. Like for this series, it's Weston,
Mhm.
a wolf shifter. But unlike Demon Days Vampire Nights, this is more romance and spice heavy, which we love. But it's K.F. Breene, so it's still well written, well developed. Like there's just one line that has always stood out to me. She says, men love to sell the idea that they are not emotional as if anger weren't an emotion. And that is just something that stuck with me because it's so fucking true.
So true.
So like going into it, it's still a good book. Like the smut is great, but it's KF Breene.
Mhm.
So
You
like
get
the
more
characters
spice
are great.
more quickly, which is great.
The spice is spicing. And I think out of 5 chili peppers, I'd give it at least a 4.
Yeah. Well, 'cause, like, I think we've discussed I don't remember when we were discussing previously how we kind of look at our chili peppers, and I think we were reserving 5 really for, like, the reverse harems that are, like, the group
Groups where
sex.
everyone is involved, not like running a train.
But, like, this there is some, like, group sex in this as well, but it's also, like it's so detailed. So, like, I love Demon Days Vampire Nights, and there's definitely spice in that one, but this one dwells more in the spice, if that
And
makes
it's
sense.
creative. Like some of the
Like
things she does, I'm like, I would not have I just
yeah.
love to be inside KF Breen's mind.
Well, there's, like, pages discussing a sex scene here, and, like, I wanna hear the details of what you're getting down into. Like, I don't wanna just know he went down on you. I wanna hear, what is he doing? Is there
Mhm.
suction? Like, give me the deets. But also, like, yeah, some of them, they're funny. Like, some of the main characters that we're going to meet, the guy gets injured and the girl is nursing him back to health. So he's in a bed, but he gets so, like, turned on, he's, like, humping the bed.
Which sounds like it would be cringe, but it is so
But,
fucking
like, he
hot.
he, like, starts grinding and he can't help it to the point that, like, he comes all over her sheets, but, like, she's, like, sitting back watching his muscles flexing, and I'm
Mhm.
like, "Ooh," it's, like, erotic. Like,
Yeah.
I just love that she has it's not just like, "Ooh, we tried a new position." It's
Mhm.
something, like, different. It's so fun to read.
Yeah, sometimes spicy books, it's it's like they do reverse cowgirl and they think that it's groundbreaking.
Wow.
This is actually stuff that like you're gonna think about for a while.
Well, and I nothing wrong with just reading smut, but I love when the characters kind of fight it because then
Yes.
it makes it, like, almost like there's some angry sex in
Mhm.
here. There's, like
And it's
it's just
animalistic because they have
yeah.
their animals.
Yeah, and, like, we'll get into some of the world building and describe it,
Yes.
but they kinda get to a point where, like, there's no holds barred, nothing is too kinky, and people are,
Mhm.
like, out there just trying stuff, and you're like, "Wow,
And I think
okay."
this was the series I was thinking of. I don't remember which series we were talking about, but I was like, there's one where they're sharing a body, like the person and their animal,
Yeah,
and they kind of like they each have their own consciousness.
yeah, and,
This is what I was thinking of.
we'll kind of explain some of that, but, yeah, it's not like they just hand over the reins and aren't present
Yeah.
for what's happening with the animal, which is fun. They're funny bickering with each other.
The series is set in a supernatural realm separated from the human realm by a veil. Did we ever talk about what lies beyond the veil? We should do an episode for that because this is a very good series.
I feel like in the very beginning we may have, and I haven't read it in so long, but I know that I loved it. So we
It's
should
one of those
definitely
where I don't know what's going on with the new book. Like, I feel like it's been years and there's something going on with the publisher. But anyway,
dang it.
so in this book, the supernatural world was once made up of 5 shifter kingdoms, but there are only 3 left.
Of the original 5 shifter kingdoms, 2 were led by dragon shifters, 2 by wolf shifters, and 1 led by a bear queen.
Shifters of the same species tend to stick together, but more than one shifter lives in each kingdom.
Yeah, it's not like there's only wolves in the wolf
Yeah, they aren't like
kingdom.
separated by species.
Yeah, that just happens to be, I guess, the most alpha or who's ruling in that area. There are also other kingdoms, not just shifter, like there's fairy and goblin, there's the land of night that's ruled by vampires, and there's a demon kingdom.
The 3 shifter kingdoms remaining are 2 wolf kingdoms, the Flamma and the Red Lupine, and a cursed forgotten dragon kingdom.
So naturally, our story begins in that cursed and forgotten kingdom, Wyvern.
Which, if you have been following like George R.R. Martin's blog, he has very strong opinions on Wyvern versus Dragon, and it's
Right?
wyvern has 2 legs and dragon has 4 legs.
It's so funny because I don't think you even learn the name of their kingdom until potentially book 3, and I was like, "Oh, it's the Wyvern
I
Kingdom?"
guess dragon kingdom would be like 2 on the nose.
I get yeah, well, because like, I don't know, because like, here they kinda use dragon and wyvern interchangeably when
Mhm,
discussing the kingdom, but, like, with George R. Martin and even, like, SJM, there's, like, discussions about the difference between a dragon and a wyvern. Because
mhm,
like, in Throne of Glass, we see wyvern being the sigil and we see wyverns, but dragons disappeared years ago. So you're
mhm.
like, are they not the same? So many
Yeah, that's
questions.
something that never really came back up in Throne of Glass, like the dragons being on the library doors.
And then, well, and in this series, wyvern isn't really discussed. It just happens to be the name of the kingdom.
Yeah.
So it was it's a dragon ruled kingdom, but 16 years prior to the story, the Mad King made a terrible deal with the Demon King.
Then the Mad King died and left his people to suffer that curse.
It's all kind of a big cluster because the queen died shortly before the Mad King made this deal with the Demon King, and the crown prince had disappeared
And it
before
takes
the
a
deal.
while to find out that story
Yeah.
of like
So,
what was
like,
going on with him.
we're going to give you guys the highlights, but it's not something that's like readily known for like the kingdom itself.
A lot of this book is because we'll talk about the magical gag. You don't really know what's going like we are with the FMC where we don't know what's going on.
Yeah. They have books that she has read through, but there's so many things, and we'll get into it, that aren't discussed much anymore because this curse that has taken over. So the Demon King and the Mad King make this deal, which is stupid, and it causes a curse for the kingdom. The curse wipes the memory of the Wyvern Kingdom's existence from everybody else in this supernatural
Which is
realm.
crazy that that magic could be that strong.
Yeah, so like nobody can come save them because they don't remember that they
It's
exist.
kind of like what Reese did with Valaris.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot I mean,
There's
that's a
a
Beauty and the Beast retelling too, so there's actually a lot of
There are
similarities.
definitely some as we get into it, even talking about the magical gag, it's very, like, Spring Court. There are a
Yes,
lot of
exactly.
things that, like,
Mhm.
kind of parallel things we've seen, but going along with the curse, nobody can enter the borders of this kingdom, but also, like, you'll die if you try to leave, so they're trapped.
You know, original Beauty and the Beast, like what it was based off of, I think that it was like a witch who wanted to fuck the prince who was like young, and then it was more, he was less like culpable, I guess, in what happened to them. But I've always wondered why she cursed everyone and not just him. Whatever.
Well, I mean, in the actual Beauty and the Beast that we've seen, I've not read the original story, but, like, in those stories, it was like, "You guys are all too vain and shallow, and you're
Mhm.
cruel, and it's for everybody." So, we don't know the extent of this curse yet or why it affects the whole kingdom.
Well, what's crazy in this book is they had modern conveniences, like they had electricity, they had running water, but they don't anymore because of the curse. So, like in the castle, there's a chandelier that would be electric, but they're just shoving candles in it because they can't use it. But then they didn't have like phones.
Yeah, they weren't
So
so
it's kind of weird having like a medieval setting or what feels like a medieval setting, but would have actually had electricity.
yeah, they weren't so far along in technology that they had cars. Like, they do talk about how the human realm had automobiles, and they didn't get that far, but they had, like, the basic modern conveniences, and then now it's gone.
And then everyone in the kingdom had their animals suppressed, meaning they can't reach the animal or any of its power. So, like, no increased strength or night vision or whatever comes along with being a shifter.
Well, and as we referenced just a little while ago, if they could access their animal, the animal has, like, a separate personality with them, but, like, right now that's all suppressed, so they're just alone alone in their bodies, which is, I guess, shocking if it's not what you're accustomed to.
She's alone, but she does have her little peanut gallery she talks to
Yeah.
sometimes.
Well, and she's alone in the beginning, our FMC, but that begins to change around the MMC. So in this kingdom, those that were too young for their first shift, which happens at age 16, so the curse began before they'd ever shifted, they don't even know what their animals are. And it's not really discussed in the villages anymore because it's, kind of a painful topic. Like, it's not going to happen. So, like, let's not talk about it.
What series am I thinking of that they don't know what their animal is until a certain age?
I think you're thinking of like the Dark Fae in the Ruthless.
Zodiac Academy
Yeah, the spinoff, like the Ruthless
world.
Boys of the
Hmm.
Zodiac, because, like, in that world, usually, they were all fae, but, like,
It's when
They
they're what
also shifted
when there's something emerges, when they're
order form.
yes,
That's what
order
it
form,
was.
yes.
Well, because, like, in that series, I think this is pretty similar. Like, usually your order form follows whatever your family is, and
Except
in
for Lionel has a Pegasus son, which he
oh,
fucking
yeah.
hates.
That's what he gets for
He's so
trying so hard to make
embarrassed.
dragons. Bless his son, he's a good boy. Well, this series is very similar because since they couldn't even shift, they don't know what they are, and it should probably be what their parents are, but
Mhm.
as the story progresses, we learn that in times of strife, you end up with more dragons, so dragons eventually will kind of pop out of nowhere, and you're like, "I didn't see that coming."
Like Twilight when
Yeah.
vampires are around and more wolves start to change.
Yeah, they're there to save the
It always
day.
comes back to Twilight. For those who had been old enough to shift when the curse started, the loss of the connection to their animals has become a sore point. Like, I guess they don't want to think about it or talk about it because it would, like, you would have such a bond with your animal and then to just lose. You know what it's also like? Sorry. My
Please
all of my
continue.
conversations are, you know what this is like?
Yes.
But what is the Nicole Kidman was in the movie based on these books where they have their animal that's like follows them around and then they start splitting them. You know what I'm talking about? Nicole, it was Compass. Oh my god, Golden Compass?
Oh, I didn't see that.
Okay,
Okay.
so in the
I
book
was like, "I
series,
don't know."
everyone when you hit a certain age or I can't remember if it's from birth, but you have like your own little animal, but it's like you can see it. It's like a separate entity.
Okay.
And so Nicole Kidman has like a monkey, and I'm trying to think of what she has like a little ferret or something. Anyway, and then they start trying to split people from their animals. But
Ooh.
yeah, it would be very like they sever the connection.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, if you think about it, if you used to have a connection to your animal and it's cursed and you can't reach it, what I mean, like, you're not training younger shifters for what to expect because 'cause they're
Yeah.
never gonna get to shift, so people just kind of stop talking about what it means to shift, what it means to be a shifter, what the culture is like, how to do it, like,
Yeah, they're not
any
even
of that.
teaching the history or yeah, like you said, training.
But even, like, the history of the kingdom, like, they have
They
access to
started
their
regressing.
yeah, they have access to their libraries, but nothing is changing or evolving.
Mhm.
The demons are slowly destroying certain things, so they're just histories that used to be passed by word of mouth aren't being discussed as much anymore. The
It's like
kingdom is kind of on pause.
the castle's frozen, but it's like everyone else is kind of devolving.
Yeah, it's wild. So those that actually live in the castle, they are frozen in time. They don't age. Nothing is changing,
They
but
just be fucking.
yeah, well, they also have a magical gag, so they can't really discuss the details of the curse, and, like, if you live the same it's like Groundhog's Day. They live the same day over and over again, like, they get bored. They're like, "What are we gonna do today? I don't know."
Well, there's the magical gag, but honestly, there's a lot of gagging in that castle going on. And not being able to speak about the curse is very fairy tale.
Mhm.
But like in most fairy tales, there's always that loophole. There's a lot of holes in this castle.
There's
There's a
so
lot of
many.
gagging, a lot of holes. But every fairy tale has an escape clause, like True Love's Kiss or like in ACOTAR, Tamlin's Stone Heart and Falling in Love.
Mm.
And they can't talk about the curse either, which that's also Beauty and the Beast, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they can't do anything to, like, alter what would break the curse. It's also disconcerting because once they made this deal with the Demon King, the demons now have, like, full access to their kingdom. So, there are evil creatures that are released into the wood at night, but there are also demons that, like, inhabit the castle. They'll go out into the local villages, and they don't really go out until nighttime, but they're like, "This is our chance to just kind of torture them,
Mhm.
do what we want." And although it should be evil, some of it is more, like,
Funny.
sexual and funny.
Well,
Like
the consent line is very blurred here because the people living in the castle, they're enjoying themselves, but then they're also under the influence of demons. So you're like, is this okay?
well, and that's the thing is they don't have to leave their rooms at night, they choose to. So it's
Oh,
like
that's right.
they
You've
also
read this. I mean, it's been like a year since I
yeah,
read this.
but so it's like you may have at one point, like, resisted, but it's been so many years of the same thing that eventually they're like, "Fuck it, I don't care." They go downstairs, get drunk, and, like, let the sexy magic take them away. So,
I would
like,
be
it
out
gets
there night one in my assless chaps. Like, let's fucking go.
I mean, it's we'll get into it, but by the time they get there, like, "What are you people doing?" Like, everybody's way too comfortable with some of this. And as I mentioned, the demon creatures that are in the wood, it's like they will be killed and then more will be released. So at one point, the wood was the royal wood for the castle. And now, with like these evil creatures, it has become the forbidden wood. And there's a beast that actually guards the forbidden wood.
The villagers outside of the castle have continued to age, but the curse has also caused a sickness that's basically a wasting disease, and it causes them to slowly wither and die.
It's interesting and probably frustrating for the characters because whatever is causing the sickness is unknown. They just know it comes from the curse. But because of that, they can't really tell who it will affect next.
Mhm.
There's not really a treatment or a cure. However, one girl in our poorest village has found a way to slow the
Crazy,
progression.
right?
I know, like, she's not like other girls, but she has found a way to slow the progression of this sickness.
Enter our FMC Finley. And the name Finley is derived from a Gaelic name meaning fair hero or warrior, which
Oh, I
I feel
didn't
like
know.
applies here.
That is perfect. Finley, of course, she's 23 and she's gorgeous. She's 6 feet tall, which is
I love that.
unusual because, like, she's not a delicate,
It's
small
usually
female.
like, she's so tiny.
Yeah, she's 6 feet tall, so she stands out a little bit. She also has 3 siblings and an ailing father.
So I started Den of Vipers,
Okay.
and they have these aggressive, it sounds like Michael Caine, kind of. I guess it would be like a Cockney accent,
Okay.
but they always talk about how the FMC, she's little and feisty, but they say little. She's so little, and it is driving me insane.
I mean, that's definitely, like, we see a lot of, like, female FM like, the FMC, so, like,
She always has to be tiny
she's
and
little
good
but
at
mighty.
everything, so I love that Finley is tall and that her strength is more with her mind. Like,
Yeah.
they don't give her a sword, and then she's, like, automatically on the battlefield cutting down warriors.
Actually hilarious. They give her a sword and she doesn't know what
She's
to do
bad
with
at it.
it. She makes a hot mess. But I mean, like, I am 5'11". So seeing
What a
a
flex.
I mean,
Wow.
if all of our FMCs
America's Next Top Model.
are not quite, a little curvy for that, but if all of the FMCs are like these tiny little spitfires, I'm like, what about the rest of us?
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate, like, it doesn't detract from anything. Like, she is a tall girl and she takes care of business. Like, yeah.
Well, she's also like your classic tomboy bookworm. I
Yeah.
guess she's very Belle, you know?
Well, and she discusses that, like, I don't know if it's just because of the curse, but the kingdom and the village has kind of like digressed.
Yes.
Like, women are now like the homemakers, the men will hunt. And she's like,
Men will wait.
no,
Men will are just waiting for their chance to do this to us. So the curse was their opportunity.
yeah. And she actually enjoys hunting. So she does the hunting for her family, but not
A little
because
Farah.
it's a little Pharaoh, but it's not because the family won't help out. She's just good at
Yeah.
it. She
Yeah, her
is
brother's great.
Yeah, her older brother, like, is like the homemaker. Like, he
Mhm.
likes to cook,
Well,
he
a
likes to
lot of
sew.
KF Breene books kind of turn around traditional, like,
Gender
gender
roles.
roles. Yeah.
Yeah. And but, like, there's no, like, animosity between them for the
Yeah.
differences. Like, they work well together to take care of the ailing parent and then, like, the younger siblings. She is, of course, that one girl, as we're talking about, that found a way to slow the progression of the sickness and null most of its effects, while also creating an elixir that protects the village from the demon's influence.
Finley first learned to work with the Everlast plant when she was 14 and her grandmother was sick. And then 8 years later, Finley's mother passed from the sickness. And now, a year later, her father is now sick with it,
Yeah, so she doesn't have a cure, but, like, she's doing her best to constantly, like, evolve and develop what she's doing to
which
try
is
to
more
make
than
it
anyone
better.
else is doing.
Literally nobody else is doing shit. They're just, like, wallowing. Over the years, thanks to her natural inclination towards herbology and even apothecary, Finley has developed an elixir. It slows the progression of the sickness, and she's constantly, as I said, working to find ways to tend the plant and adjust the elixir to get better results. And this is how she and her older brother work well together because he's more of the nurturer, and, like,
Hmm.
she might be coming up with these, like, elixirs, but she's not like a healer and caregiver. So, like, she'll come up with something and then he'll be the one to administer it to help. She's like, no, no, that's not me. I don't have a bedside manner. I'm just like putting shit together.
We love to see women in STEM. And I also love the quote when she was talking about it isn't fair to profit from people who don't have the money to pay when their lives are on the line, that living shouldn't come with a price tag.
It's giving Irene Towers.
Yes, but
Like,
also, like, it's giving, "Should I hand this to my doctor?" And she's also managed to save a lot of people in her village, and she is teaching, like, she's not gatekeeping the elixir, she's teaching them about the plant so that they can also help their loved ones. So it's she's very
She's giving. She's very selfless with
she's
it.
selfless.
'Cause it's not like people again, like you just said, people's lives are on the line. She's not like,
Kim, there's people that are dying.
I know, and I think it probably helps that they're one of the poorer villages because nobody there is really putting on airs. So it's not like the wealthy are trying to keep it from the others.
Yeah,
It's very much
exactly.
like everybody's helping each other. It's crazy because this plant, the Everlast plant, it's really, really fickle. It requires a lot of care and some very specific treatment. The different requirements for when to harvest the plant, the songs that it prefers, and the ingredients to combine for the elixir. It's all very fairy tale.
Very, and, like, the leaves respond best when transported in a tweed bag. You're like, "Okay." Red rose petals work best in the elixir compared, like, with other color petals. It's like, rainwater has to be gathered at a certain time of the day. Like, it is very fickle.
But and I love that about this because this is still like the whole series is a fairy tale. So I love those aspects. It's not just like, "Oh, I grabbed some mint
Mhm.
and some of this
That
from the
someone
garden,"
else
and
probably would have figured out by now.
yeah, this is
It's like, "Oh, did
very
you forget to sing to it?"
and she's so funny because she's constantly like, I'm gonna gather the leaves at this time. Okay, don't be mean to them. Those leaves are sensitive." You're like,
Yeah.
"What?"
Well, isn't
But
that true that if you plants, like, respond if you talk to them, like, they grow better if you talk to, or am I insane?
I I don't know
Oh,
for
I'm
sure.
crazy?
Well, I'm not a good gardener, but
No,
I
I'm
have
actually not either.
heard
I killed a
things.
succubus.
A succubus? You mean a succulent?
Succulent.
There's so many succubus just wandering around Nashville.
I killed a succubus.
Talents
I
I
killed
didn't know
a
you had.
succubi. I would kill a succubus. It'd be like, "Too much."
Not what I was looking for. That's so funny. I won't forget that comment. Okay. Here's where things get interesting. This everlast plant also grows in areas that are maintained by dragons. So, as we mentioned before, the royal wood was once maintained by the dragon royalty. It has now become the forbidden wood, and that is where, of course, the everlast plant grows.
And it's guarded by the beast.
Oh, yeah, don't forget that beast. He's in there. Finley has risked her life more than once to gather the plant, and she has helped her neighbors to plant it in their own gardens. But sometimes, like the weather's been bad, the plant hasn't grown back enough for the year, and somebody is sick. You can't really wait. So Finley
Mhm.
must risk a trip to the Forbidden Wood to gather more plant.
And on one such night, her father's cough is worsening, and they don't have enough fresh leaves to make more elixir. The best results with the plant come when it's harvested late at night, of course, the most dangerous time to visit the woods.
Yeah, and we mentioned it previously, but at nighttime is when the demons like really flourish.
Where are they during the day?
I think they actually hang out in the dungeons in the castle.
Okay.
Like, they're not like vampires, like, they can't not come out in the sun, but they don't like it. They skitter away. The demonic creatures no longer venture into the village much, but the sex demons, like the incubi and succubi, definitely do.
She's created an elixir to like, there are multiple elixirs in play because there's also one to protect against the demon's magic. So she doesn't fear those demons. Like, she doesn't fear being influenced by them, but they could still kill her.
Yeah. Well, she can fight because she does do hunting, but not with the sword. So, they have to get very close to fight with her. On this particular night, Finley plans to wait until the moon is high in the sky, then sneak past the beast to gather the everlast leaves.
And she makes it to a patch of everlast plants, and then this birch tree starts shaking to give away her location.
Which,
And she's like, "Stop."
yeah, the tree hasn't done that before. So she's like, why are you doing that? What's happening? It's literally like dancing and shaking.
Mhm.
So it really freaks her out and spurs her on to get what she needs and leave.
But he did that, right?
Oh, yeah. We'll
Okay.
find out somebody enchanted it for her on purpose.
She hears the screams of another creature in the distance and heads in a different direction. And as the screams from that creature grow closer, Finley realizes she is being watched. When she looks around, she sees golden eyes watching her from a great height because our man is tall. Because if it's from a great height and she is 6 feet tall.
Yeah. Well, and this beast is big. So she's like, oh, that's not like a normal beast. Like, God, those eyes are high up there. God, those feet are big. What is this? Finley sprints all the way back to her house. And the next morning, she goes to the village market to get groceries.
And that's where she bumps into our Gaston like character, Jedrick.
Ugh, Jedrick. He is He's
I
such a
probably would
pill.
just be with Jedrick if I lived in the
I
village,
mean, he is
to
good
be honest.
looking, as Gaston would be. He has been prancing around telling everybody in the village that he will marry Finley and that she will bear him some beautiful children, despite her loudly being like, "No, what are you talking about?"
In her Belle era, Finley visits the library to find a good book to read. She spends her day reading, napping, that's like your dream,
I
and
know.
preparing for more elixir for her father. That night, she's woken from a nightmare only to realize the beast is right outside of her house and it doesn't come into the village.
No, they all thought so, like, although the
There was a lot
previous
of lore surrounding the
yeah, there's
beast.
a lot of things that people just have assumed, and, like, the previous evil creatures at one point could get out of the wood and come into the village, but I guess the beast has been kind of holding them back. Everybody assumed the beast was trapped in the forbidden wood, and now he is right outside. That is super unexpected, and
Concerning.
yeah. Well, and she was taking Everlast plant, which we'll come to find he doesn't like people taking things from his wood. Finley runs downstairs in an effort to protect her siblings, and she finds the beast watching her through another window.
Terrifying.
Like, that is literally my nightmare after seeing what was that movie? I think it was like Deep Blue Sea.
Oh my
Do you remember
god.
that? And like she
Yes.
looks up and a shark has its eye up
Yeah.
to the window, and you're like, whoa, what the fuck?
That's how I learned that sharks can't swim backwards.
Or they shouldn't.
Or they
Yeah.
shouldn't, yeah.
That's my nightmare to like look up and make eye contact with somebody, and you're like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
So he is watching her.
It's amazing your mind went there because mine went to like The Strangers or like a million horror movies, but you're like that shark.
Well, because it's still a creature, but like it has enough like sentience that it's like watching you, like, whoa, okay. The beast, breaks a window by tossing a pocket knife through that I guess she didn't realize she had lost the night before.
Like Belle, like Feyre, our girl is a martyr. So she takes off running for the Forbidden Wood to lead the beast away from her family. And when she reaches the Everlast Field, the beast reduces down to a nude man.
I mean, Finley is shook because remember, any kind of shifting and access to your animal has been suppressed. She is just like, she's gagged. She
Yeah.
can't move.
And this is where we meet our MMC, Nifane. He's almost 7 feet tall with brown hair, gold eyes, a muscular, scarred frame.
Also, she notes a big dick because duh.
Duh. Later, we learn Nifane is not only a powerful alpha, but the crowned prince.
Yeah, and that's information that it takes most of the book for us to learn. So you guys are welcome.
But it's also a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So if you think it's a spoiler that like the beast is not a beast
Or he's not like
and that they
he's
end up
not somebody
together, like, come on.
important. Well, and so like not all dragons are royalty, but like they are usually nobles because like dragons flock to the castle. But
Yeah.
so like even knowing that he is a dragon shifter, she doesn't necessarily assume that he is the prince until it's told to her. Nifane was once a golden dragon with wings, but he forced his shift as soon as the curse first happened because he was trying to maintain that connection to his animal, and that was
So
bad timing.
well, so now he has blacks, his scales are black and it cut off his wings, and that's like hence beastie.
So he is, yeah, he's the only one that can shift because he kind of forced it before the magic could really take hold with the curse.
But then it
But
still had consequences.
yeah, I mean it changed the color of his scales and like it tore off his wings, like his poor beast. He was like, whoops.
Still hot.
Sorry about that. So Nifane can now shift at will, but he's no longer golden and he's land bound.
And like we said earlier, he left the kingdom before his mother's death and he was engaged to a fairy princess, literally. And he returned when his mother died, becoming trapped with the rest of the kingdom.
And the rest of the kingdom, I mean, like those in the castle know he's there, but the rest of the kingdom doesn't know that he came back. They thought he
Mhm.
had just disappeared and then everything went to shit. Nifane spends his nights guarding the Forbidden Wood and killing as many demon creatures as he can in order to protect the people of the kingdom.
The Everlast Field and the Forbidden Wood is property of the castle, and he caught Finley stealing from it. The price for trespassing in the wood is detention, but the price for stealing is death.
Death. Finley explains that she was stealing in order to save others, and she makes a deal with Nifane. She agrees to go with him if he agrees not to punish the others in the village for stealing from the Forbidden Wood.
And he decides he won't kill her, but it's not just the one time that she was trespassing. It was a repeat crime. And so Nifane grabs her and takes her back to the castle where he's going to lock her in a tower for eternity. Very casual.
Yeah, he's still like, I still have to punish you. And she's like, but I was helping people. He's like,
Mm.
nobody else has mentioned that, so that's debatable. when Finley enters the castle with Nifane, this is honestly some of my favorite scenes
Yes,
because
this and when they visit where the Demon King lives are my
yeah,
favorite.
she is shocked because we've mentioned this, but the demons come out at night. So, like, once the demons are in charge of the castle, it is like orgy, sex
It's
party. It is
very,
chaos.
like, ancient
Rome,
Rome,
yeah.
like, Caligula level debauchery.
Yes, I mean, she walks in and it's like she's seeing pegging, she's seeing like 3 men attached to each other.
I wouldn't even know where to look, but I would wanna look everywhere and nowhere.
There's like wild costumes and like
Yeah, the
whips and chains, and she's
costumes,
like, "What is
because 'cause they're so
happening?"
bored.
I mean, like, they have really branched out in their spare time, but she also meets a mediocre butler, and he is God, he's my favorite. His name is Hadriel. He is in this fluffy purple dragon costume. His dick is hanging out, his nipples are out, and she's like she
What a
can't
way to meet someone.
although she should be upset because she's, like, being taken prisoner, she can't stop giggling at his just, like, drunken, crazy outfit.
He's one of my favorite side characters of all time. But also, he's telling her, like, "There's nothing to do here. We shame fuck. I shame fuck, but we're not aging. Nothing ever changes."
He just Hadriel again, as we both just said, he's by far he's the best character. He's one of my favorite. He's like he's hilarious. He's shameless. He's like he's not ashamed. He's super crass because this has become his life over the years, and he's just like, "This is it. This is how I
Yeah.
live now. Like, I'm gonna regret this tomorrow, but like, what else am I gonna do?"
And he's mediocre at his job because, as he tells Finley, they were killed if they were too good at their job, so he is trying to be mediocre and as unassuming as possible, which also relatable.
God, it's so funny. Like, even the next day, he's like, "You're already doing a great job. You're pretty dirty. You look like a mess." And she's like, "What?" Like, she hadn't even planned this. And he's like, "Do you think I like having my hair this length? Do you think I like this ridiculous little mustache? You can't be too good looking. You can't make too much of an effort." And she's just like, "What?" He's so funny. So after having just met poor Hadriel, who is in the middle of something and having to suddenly do his job, Nifane takes Finley up to a tower room instead of the dungeons because it's the only place that she will be safe from the demons.
Well, most of the other rooms have, like, tunnels and secret entrances, so they'd be hard to guard. So he's not putting there, like, literally locking her in a tower forever.
Yeah,
It's
he
for
doesn't
her safety.
he's like, I don't it's not like he like hates her and he's like, "You have to be punished." It's more just like, "I've got to do something,
Yeah.
but like I'm not going to subject you to all that if I don't have to." Hadriel becomes a constant companion for Finley. I just again, we've talked about it. He is the best, but she also has this plucky lady's maid named Leela.
And Leela also enjoys bondage, which leads to some very also funny but interesting scenes. Because you wouldn't think when you first meet her.
Yeah, she's demure and like,
Mhm.
"Yes, my lady," and helping her and like I think it's also because they have been in this funk without nothing changing for so many years, like, nobody has any secrets or boundaries anymore, like,
Yeah.
you walk in on somebody fucking or they just do it in a hallway,
Or you just join or you just, like, go somewhere else.
nobody even judges because it just becomes, like, I don't know if you're doing this because you want to or if you've been influenced, and, like, I've done things I don't love, and so we just move on.
Mhm.
Literally, God, who is that character? There's this one character, I don't know if she's a cook or a seamstress, but, like, she's, randomly, like, walking down the hall in one scene, like, Nifane and Finley are going somewhere, and she walks past them with her boobs out and, like, a strap-on
Yeah.
on, and she's just, like, talking to
It's
them
shocking stuff, but
like
it's
it's her
not in the castle shocking.
she's like, "Hello, sire," da, 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 and, like, having normal conversation, I'm like, "But your tits are out."
Yeah.
Like, there's a
And Knife Fane just kinda has, like, blinders on, like, it doesn't really affect him anymore, but he also doesn't participate.
well, and so, like, being shifters, like, unlike in Throne of Glass, when they shift, they are naked. So, like, nudity, I don't think shocks
Like
anybody.
Twilight, because remember the wolves have to carry
Oh,
they have,
yeah.
like, a little backpack that goes on their paw that has their, like, sweatpants.
Their little panties in it. Yeah, it's, but, like, just the strap on. Poor Finley is like, "Oh my god," and he's just like, "Okay, we'll see you tomorrow, Miss Smith." Like, "Okay." It's when Finley comes up to this tower room that she learns she's not truly a prisoner confined to her tower. She usually will have an escort when she tries to leave the room, but she's not bound there. Her first day in the castle, Hadriel gives her a tour and she ends up meeting Nifane on the grounds for a picnic.
And Finley sees Nifane caring for the Everlast plants the way she would and learns that his mother tended the plants and worked the gardens. So she taught him all that she knew about the plants, and he would often sing to them growing up.
Oh, which is so, like, she's kind of taken with, like, the fact that somebody else seems to understand these plants. The
Yeah.
more time that Finley spends with Nifane, the more of a connection that she's able to make with her animal.
Well, and she also realizes she can assert her will like an alpha, and she can also help other shifters feel their trapped animals.
Yeah, so that's one interesting since Nifane was able to shift and maintain his connection to his animal, also because he's an alpha. When others are around them, he can help them to feel their animals. You know, like they can't
Like pull like create more of
a
or like
connection.
yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily last because of the curse, but, like, when he's around, like, he can help bridge that gap a little bit. But for Finley, that connection begins to happen with her animal, and it doesn't go away when he's not around. So she's beginning to actually meet her animal because she was too young to shift when
And
the
her
curse came
animal's,
about.
like, embarrassed by her, like, when she's talking to herself in the peanut gallery and in her head, the dragon's like, "What are you doing?
I just love all
Who are
this
you talking to?"
sass. The sass in this series between, like, the characters and their animals or, like, some of the other characters, it's a comedic relief
It's
that's
like Reagan, like, KF Breene is able to write sass and, like but in a humorous way
mhm.
better than anybody.
They're such relatable characters, and half the time it's self-deprecating sass, but it's like nobody feels shame over it. It's just funny, which is what makes it so much funnier because 'cause you're not, like, wallowing in anything, like, insecurity-wise.
Because it could be if you took out all of the comedy, like everyone with their dicks out and Hadriel and everything, it's a dark story.
I mean, yeah, the shame fucking, like, potential questions of,
Consent.
thank you. I was like, "What's that word?" You know, like, that could be a slippery slope to some really dark stuff, but they make enough jokes about it or, like, discuss that they could choose not to go down to the parties that happen in the evening, like, they do have some choice in it.
Yeah.
Nifane also wants to learn about this elixir that Finley claims to have created so that he can help out the other villages because nobody else seems to have thought about using the everlast plants or found a way to help with the sickness.
So we get our forced proximity and lots of sexual tension.
Finley does begin to feel her animal more and more, especially around
And
Nifane.
her animal is very horny. Like her animal's like, let me take over. And his
They're
animal's doing the same. They're like, let us do what we need to do, and you guys can take a back seat.
exactly. So this leads to some really sexy situations because both of their animals are like, you guys, hush, we're busy. They're constantly trying to jump each other, and things don't really go all the way because Finley is like, "Nah, he's an asshole. He's gonna turn into an asshole, like, don't forget that."
Well, he's very hot and cold. Like they form a friendship and they'll have moments, but then he'll lash out and push her away because there's like, it's not as much drama, but there's a lot of trauma.
Mhm. He tells her more than once that he's not a good man and to keep her distance.
And there are lots of sexy situations in book one, but both characters are trying to refrain from the sex their animals are pushing for so they don't accidentally bond each other. Because it's not just sex between these two animals.
It's not as clear in the first book because Finley doesn't know anything about the
Yeah, they
curse.
haven't been taught anything in the villages about shifter history or training or like how it works.
She's also not part of the magical gag, she's not part of the castle, but at least in the gag, like, they can't talk about it, but those people have more information.
Have you ever been gagged?
No,
I don't think I have either.
I don't think I feel like with somebody, we may have considered it, and I didn't like it. Like, I liked the blindfold, but I didn't like anything being on my mouth.
I don't need to be gagged because I don't make a sound. You wouldn't even know I'm in the
Literally no need. That's really funny. Well, anyway, Finley wants to refuse any of this connection with Nifane because he can be such an asshole.
room.
And of course, Nifane wants to refuse because he doesn't want Finley, like, if they bond, he doesn't want her to be stuck with him. So he's kind of wallowing.
Well, he also thinks that if the curse is broken, doesn't he think that he will die?
Yeah, and this is what it's a little bit cryptic as they talk about it in the book because there's a gag. We don't get enough information from him, but he'll say things like, "Well, if it ever breaks, you'll be trapped.
Yeah.
I'll die." Like you're like, "What?"
Yeah, we don't get a lot of information about what's needed to break the curse or why he thinks he's going to die. So, like, we're talking about some information that will slowly come out.
And even then, I don't even know if I fully understand the details of the curse because they were gagged.
Yeah.
But so it's like Nifane is drawn to her, but it's constantly pushing her away. And it's I mean, it's probably a typical trope that we see, but it's definitely frustrating for Finley. She's like, what's happening here?
Mhm.
Nifane does, however, make plenty again of cryptic comments about if he dies and the curse ends, the Demon King rules.
A few days after Finley has been taken to the castle, that's when she learns who Nifane really is.
It's one of those, like, she's had enough push and pull with him, like, he's been kind of an
There's a
ass,
lot of push and pull.
and then she finds out who he is, and he basically says something, like, really brusque and hurtful, like, he wants to fuck her, but then her life is forfeit, and she's like, "What?" She's
Peace.
she's angry about all of it, she feels I don't know, like, makes you feel, like, dejected and like you don't mean
Mhm.
much, so she's like, "Imma go." She, like, decides to run when she finds a chance.
Well, it's like, do you want me or does your animal just want my animal?
Well, and all that to be said, she's still worried about her sick father, like, she made some
Mhm.
elixir, but
I
she's
would
like
have already forgotten about sick dad, I gotta tell you.
I mean, it's been fun and a little sexy, but, like, I have bigger priorities, so she's like, "I got things to get back to."
And she runs right into the demon infested woods,
Mhm.
and she does a pretty good job fighting them off, but Nifane does come to her rescue, and one of the creatures with a poisonous bite manages to scratch Nifane, and Finley forces him to go back to her house, and her and her older brother, Hannon, can help heal the wound. Because fortunately, she has a book at home about poisons that she totally forgot to return to the library. Convenient.
She's very much like, "Let us take care of this." Finley, with the help of her siblings, manages to nurse Nifane back to health after a couple of days.
But he doesn't wanna stay from the away from the forbidden wood too long because, like, this Barbie's job is protect. Like, that's really the only thing that he's been able to focus on this entire time that the kingdom's been cursed. But he does agree to stay for one more night.
Yeah, this is we talked about it earlier, but, like, him, convalescing in her home is when we get the sexy bed humping and, like, another sexy scene, so, like, things he seems like he's starting to thaw towards her. Finley's kind of falling into her feelings again because he's not being an asshole just yet.
Well, she's
But
taking care of him, which when was the last time anyone took care of him?
right. And he's like he suddenly seems to fit in really well with her family. But then before he's fully healed, he actually drugs the family so they sleep really hard and he sneaks away in the middle of the night. Because she's also like, you still need to recover. What are you doing? But like, as you said, Barbie's job or Ken's job is protect. He's got
Mhm.
things to do. So not only did he leave while she was sleeping and risk his life, he also cut off this connection that had started to form between both of their animals.
And it sends Finley into a panic the next morning because she knows that Nifane went to fight before he was physically ready. And book one ends on a cliffhanger. It's her finding a note telling her not to come after him. So, anyways, book two begins with her going after him.
I mean, like, of course. She goes after Nifane and she ends up running into members of a different village that tell her they saw Nifane, they patched him up, and he went home.
And she goes home feeling rejected and unwanted. Again, relatable.
She went in to try to, like, save him, and then she realized half of her panic and half of this was an urging from her animal.
Mhm.
I mean, it's fear for his safety, but also the animal is like, "His dragon cut us off. We have to go find him."
I wouldn't wanna even trust my own feelings or emotions if I were sharing my body. Like, that would be very hard to separate what you feel from what they feel.
Right, and, like, things had started to warm up between them, but he's been an ass this whole time pushing her away, and she hasn't forgotten that she is one of the poorest commoners and he is the prince. So, when she's like, "He cut ties with us. He is okay. He's not in danger."
Mhm.
She decides to go home because, like, she's like, "We're not gonna embarrass ourselves chasing after a guy that has told us no."
Like, yeah, like, Nifane and his animal may want Finley and her animal, but they didn't want to want them, which is more hurtful than not just like, if someone just doesn't want you, that's one thing, but if they don't want to want you,
Then
that's
it's like,
almost more hurtful.
yeah, you're like, "Thanks, what's wrong with me?"
And Nifane has made it seem like he's staying away from Finley to protect her, but her insecurities tell her that he's a prince, she's a poor, so they can never be together.
She is a poor. Yeah, I mean, there's moments as the reader where you're like, "Oh, come
But yeah,
on."
we know that's not true.
But I guess, if you think about it from her perspective, you're like, "Okay, well, I'm glad I could help."
But we all do that. Like if you're talking to a guy and they ghost you, and it's probably just because he's talking to 50 other women on Hinge, but in
Yeah.
your head you're like are looking back over your conversation and like, what did I do? What's wrong with me?
Well, and that's the other thing we've talked about how their animals are very involved, like, they're together but separate, and the animals keep pushing it, so it's like, he wants to have sex with me, but the man doesn't actually want me, so
Right.
she's very much like,
But it's
"No."
really more the man wants to protect her from himself.
Yeah, or whatever it is that she doesn't know about because of the gag, like, there's a lot of, like, questions that come up because 'cause you're like, "What does this mean?" And, of course, again, like, the animals wanna bond because 'cause they're animals, and she's like, "I don't wanna be stuck with a man that doesn't want me here."
Yeah.
That's awful feeling. Finley goes back home to check on her father and either cure him or kill him because she has figured out a new way to work the
Those are
elixir.
2 very different extremes.
Well, because like, he is, not well, so
Yeah.
it's like she part of this Everlast, there's a version of it that can be like a poison, so she's like, "Either I figured out how to adjust the poison to do its job, or it's gonna kill him
Man, that is
immediately."
just like I just finished Nocticadia,
Uh-huh.
and they're trying to look for this antidote, but they have to use the poison, which, I mean, I guess all vaccines do that. It's just crazy.
Oh, well, I mean, like, there's some human medicine that, like, is literally made from poisonous plants, but
Mhm.
it also can help with sleep or, like, the digitalis plant that actually helps with, like, arrhythmias, like, in human
Oh my
like,
god, you're so smart.
real life medicine these days comes from a poison, so, like, it's a
You're
very
sexy when you
fine
say
line.
science stuff.
Thank you. Have your eyes glazed over yet?
Yeah, I have.
Great, I'll stop there. Well, so Finley has created this new elixir, but as we were saying, she doesn't have great bedside manner, and if it
No.
does kill her dad, she doesn't be wanna be the one that actually administered it. So
Can
her
you imagine your doctor coming in and injecting you and then just leaving?
I mean, he doesn't even like, she doesn't even inject it, she gives it to her brother who takes over, and she's like, "Imma go to the market, like, go,
Mhm.
like, do something else, so I'm not just sitting there anxiously waiting to see how this turns out." So she heads into town and, of course, runs into Jedrick again.
Who assumes that she's been gone for a few days because she went to meet with the Demon King to make a deal to save her father. And when Finley still refuses to marry him, because like nothing has changed, I don't know why you think the answer would be different, but he tells her that he'll make a deal with the Demon King to force her to choose him, which is an oxymoron. Forcing someone to choose you is not choosing.
It's just so wild because it's like, "You clearly don't want me, I don't want you, why are you pushing this?" But it's like, he's like, I guess for very shallow reasons, he's like, "I will have you, and now that you're fighting it, I will definitely have
Well,
you."
their deal is weird too.
Yeah, and yeah, we'll have to get into some of that because it's
I'm not
kinda
sure I totally
crazy.
understood it.
Yeah. Well, she tells him off because, like, he's being ridiculous, and then he promises to make her pay before he walks away, and you're like,
That's
'Kay.
not good, but at least the elixir saved her father.
Yes, great news.
Yay.
Now she can focus on that for other people in the village that are getting worse. So, now that she's found a potential cure, dare I say, we'll see,
Dare I say?
she has to go get more leaves. So she enters the Forbidden Wood after seeing the recovery from her father, and she finds a note from Nifane with a book that he thinks she will enjoy. So,
I
like, I guess we're
love
friends?
this that they start, like, trading books. It's like Dorian and Selena.
Well, so it's like maybe there aren't hard feelings.
Mhm.
He can't do this.
God, if my boyfriend picked out a book for me to read, it would be like an autobiography from a sports person. As Finley continues to work on improving the Everlast elixir and saving her village, she and Nifane begin a correspondence through letters. That is such a lost art. Like I say that, I don't want to write letters, but I would love to receive letters.
Well, sometimes people can't say something, like, it's easier for them to write it down, so, like,
Yeah.
you build a bond in a different way, which is
I
fun.
think I'm forgetting how to write. Sometimes if I have
Yeah.
to physically write something, I'm like, my hand doesn't move like that anymore.
Yeah, my hand is over this.
It's very sweet until that fuck Jedrick and his idiot friends, which here's another example of why I think it should be illegal for men to gather in groups of 3 or more. Honestly, 2 men is pushing it, but 3 men should be illegal. But they trap Finley in an alley and she escapes and runs home where her brother stops Jedrick and his friends at the door because Hannon is not just like good at bedside manner, he's also a badass.
Yeah, so, like, speaking of, like, flipping the gender norms, like, he is better at being, like, a homemaker with the cooking and cleaning and the sewing and nurturing, but, like, Hannon knows how to wield his axe, and he's a big guy.
Mhm.
He's like, obviously, if Finley is 6 feet, he is a bigger guy. So, yeah, she's just out trying to do her job in the wood, and suddenly, like, these assholes try to jump her one
The
day.
one person that can make elixir to save everyone, and they're trying to, like, trap her into what, being a A stay-at-home mother?
Like a trad wife, I yeah,
Yeah.
but, like, not sorry,
Oh, Jedrick would love the trad wife
no
trend.
disrespect to trad wives that have chosen this, but,
If
like,
if
a
that's your
forced
yeah,
like a
forced is
servant,
not
she would
okay.
not have chosen this.
No, I would love to be taken care of if someone out there would like to take care of me.
If I really just had to I mean, I don't like cleaning, but, like, if everything else was handled and I could relax, like, maybe I could be a maybe I could be a trad wife.
We'll look into it.
I'll think
If
about it.
anyone's looking.
But so since these like, they're just like goons. These goons
They are
interrupt what
goons.
Finley's doing, so she lets Hannon handle them, and she sneaks out the back door to go back to try to finish what she started, and she finds another letter from Knifeane, as well as weapons that he has left for her to protect herself, because she wrote to him about Jedrick making threats
Mhm.
for the future.
And later that night, when Finley gets home, she's showing the weapons to Hannon when there's a knock at the front door. Jedrick did reach out to the local demons about making a deal with the Demon King. That was not an empty threat.
Yeah, so, like, he doesn't have the status to, like, reach the Demon King, but he's trying to get the process started, so the demons are like, "This could be
Yeah, they're
interesting.
checking it out.
Let's see what this means for us." So they're standing on Finley's doorstep to investigate, and then Finley and Hannon manage to, like, lure them into the house and kill them.
So then she sneaks out of the back of the house again and finds more demons waiting for her in the wood, but Nifane comes to her rescue. Then his animal pushes her to shift. But Nifane is afraid of her shifting and the curse doing to her what it did to him. But Finley's animal's like, fuck it, and just keeps trying.
It's like the power, whatever it is, like, calling to her,
Yeah, and
and,
it's like once it starts, it would be really hard to
like
stop it.
yeah, so the both of the humans are afraid of what this could actually mean, and Finley's like, "No, no, no, don't do that because they told us this could happen," and she's like, "I don't care." So Finley's
Hmm.
like, "Cool, you know what? I know a better distraction," and she starts
Yeah.
kissing Nifane. So that fully distracts the animals who've been trying to get at each other, and they take over, and it is a very intense and dirty sex scene in the woods, but again, it's driven by the animals, not the humans.
And after the sex, they're like, you know what would make this even better if we fake your death and then you move in with me.
They're like, maybe that'll just like Jedrick will be like, oh, oh well, and like get over it. So they return to the castle, but they fight being together because Nifane is a martyr and he doesn't want to doom Finley with the curse that she still doesn't understand.
Yeah, there's still that magical gag. So as the reader, you're like, what the fuck is happening? Why is he still fighting this?
Well, we just had super rough sex that the animals I'm like, what
I
if
bruise so I would be covered like I bruise very easily like a little Victorian child.
yeah.
Or
Well
like
then
someone that Rasputin would
at
be looking after.
at this point, one sex scene is not gonna like curb my enthusiasm. So Finley's like, why don't we just fuck then? Like, let's make it worth our while. And he's like,
Mhm.
This is a terrible idea." So it's like they still kind of have like sexy scenes where they bump up against each other, but they won't go all the way to the sex because whatever the bonding is, they're trying to keep it from like fully progressing with sex.
Well, this book is a slow burn romance, even when there's spice.
Yeah. So, because it's like the animals kind of help to give us the sexy relief we need, but the humans are slower to like sort out whatever they need
It's
to.
really not talked about in Throne of Glass if they fuck when they're in their animal forms.
Yeah, and they do actually reference that because at one point Finley asks Nithane and she's like, "Do the animals ever just like cuz like right now when the animals take over, they're still like in human form."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Do they ever, come together?" And not only we kind of learn a little bit about true mates and potential, so like
Of course, there's fated mates.
yeah, people can mate together that are different animals, but usually they
Yeah, have
tend
you
to
ever seen a
be
wolf fuck a dragon?
let's not.
Logistically, that just
Or vice versa. That's not going to
no, that would
happen.
be terrifying.
But so, like, generally speaking, people tend to mate with, like, within their own species,
Yeah.
but also he is, like as somebody that is clearly a shifter, he's like, "Yeah, sometimes they mate in the animal form, it's just not really talked about." And you're like, "Ew."
Don't they like do it in the sky? Maybe that's another series.
I don't know. That's probably yeah, that's probably another series because, like, Nifane is also, like, landbound.
Oh yeah,
And
his
so,
4
like
wings.
I mean, he was preparing to marry a fairy before. So,
Mhm.
like, like, you could marry a different species and maybe they just don't mate in their animal form, like, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how that all pans out, but they have this push and pull, and Finley and Nifane end up spending several weeks making more of the elixir. They're trying to find ways that they can get it throughout the kingdom and also, like, keep it potent because, like, the
Mhm.
longer the journey, eventually it may not work as well.
Well, you have to keep it stable. I know that because I read the one science book. Well, I read one romance book and they were scientists.
Of course.
And they were talking about the stability and because they kept like they would find the right combo of whatever, but then it wouldn't last very long.
Yeah, I wouldn't make it to some of, like, the far-reaching villages.
But then they also need to train those other villages in growing the everlast and making the elixir because they're not like starting a pharmaceutical company. Like they're
Yeah.
not planning on making it for everyone, but it's really, I guess you would call it selfless that they're willing to go out there and just like teach people for free. This is how you can like help yourselves.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a lot of that,
Because
a lot
I
of
would be
teaching.
like setting up an MLM, be like, okay, I'm going to go find 5 people and teach them, and they'll teach other people, but then everyone has to pay me.
Well, I mean, there's definitely, like, people's lives on the line, but also nobody's coming into or out of the kingdom, so it's not like there's a lot of bustling trade. There's not,
Yeah.
like, a lot of money to be had at all. So while at the castle, Finley ends up spending a lot of time in the
And
library.
there are some spicy scenes. One of my favorite spicy scenes is in the library
Oh my god, I think it's one of my favorite sex scenes in the whole book.
when she's like watching,
Yeah.
and then he's like, wait a minute, why is she so turned on?
It's like so, like, because their animals have a bit of a connection, Finley's in the library, like, on a second level just reading, but she stays too late, and, like, the demons have come out for the night, and 3 people come into the first floor, not demons, like, it's just people,
Mm-hmm.
and, like, they start having this intense threesome, and she can't look away, and she starts, like, really enjoying herself and, like, total voyeur, very sexy, but Nifane through the bond is like, "Oh my god, did one of the demons get her? She is really turned on." And he
Mm-hmm.
comes running. No. She's just being a little voyeur, so then they have their turn, and it is very sexy
That might
sex.
be my favorite. Very
It is
sexy sex.
it is so sexy. And then even funnier, Hadriel comes, like, searching for Finley because he's like, "Oh my god, she didn't return.
Yeah,
Finley, are
she's
you
out
here?"
at dark.
My favorite, though, is he busts in the library, he sees where Nifane, like, kicked out the little threesome, and Hadriel's like, knock once if you're okay," and she's like, "Why would I knock once?" He's like, "Oh my god, you're here." But he's like, "I don't know, you got out of gagging, I don't know, think weird things have happened," and he just, like, kinda, like, talks himself through his anxiety, and she's like, "Okay,
But they
I'm
aren't
fine."
just fucking in the library. She's also researching the curse.
Yeah, I mean, like, she has so much information at her fingertips. So, like, she's not only looking up stuff for the elixirs and just reading for funsies, but she's got to figure out what's going on with this curse. Like, what are
Mm-hmm.
we building to? How can we help our people? One day, Finley and Nifane are in the queen's quarters and looking at what else. There is a rose bush, very Beauty and the Beast, and it represents the entire kingdom. And they notice that, like, the different branches show, like, how the kingdom is faring. So, like, when people were dying and sick, one branch on this bush is dying. But now a lot of the branches are starting to look very, very healthy. They are healing.
Which is excellent news until the Demon King arrives. Like, if he notices what's happening, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, like, he checks in, like, maybe once a year, and now that things are going well, this would be a terrible time for the Demon King to arrive. The Demon King is Dolian, and he happens to show up for his annual inspection
Of
shortly
course.
after this.
And he is very interested in Finley. A lot of the demons are. And they make a deal that she can kill any demon who touches her in the next 3 days without any repercussions. And she will keep Nifane from interfering with or harming the Demon King.
Yeah, because Finley doesn't usually come out at night or deal with any of that, but
But it's not like she can control Nifane. It's more like he would respect her
yeah.
wishes.
Well, and we mentioned it earlier on, but she's starting to really, like, be able to assert her will, but Dolian wants to spend time with her, and, of course, the
I'd fuck him too.
he is blue, and that's the thing for you.
That's fun.
You do
Oh
like
yeah, because
your eyes
I was
playing at
like, wait a minute,
barbarians.
but there's also a demon in. Is it the Lords of the Underworld? No, he's red. No, I can't remember what color he is. But yeah, I'm in.
Okay. I mean, I think he could probably be enjoyable. Apparently, he's got some kinks that we need to hear about too.
Oh, you know what? I think it's a soul. Is it a soul to keep? There's like a demon king that's very
Oh,
hot.
I'm not sure if I've read that one.
It's good.
If
It's
we haven't done a
spicy.
review of that, maybe we need to do that as well.
Surprisingly, like sweet for
Oh.
his ribs being on the outside of his body.
Oh, wait. I feel like you've referenced that before. As soon as you said that, I was like, that's ringing a bell.
It's good. It's a good one.
Um, we got fully distracted. Oh, Dolian. So since the demons really come out at night, Dolian wants her out at night, which was she was like, "Okay, well, if your people try and touch me, I'm gonna kill them." So there's that. And he's like, "Okay, well, if you'll keep Nifane from like trying to kill me or like attack my people or whatever, then because Nifane is of course very defensive now that the Demon King is here and he's trying to protect her. So like that's their little deal is that like, okay, I won't let him attack, but if
Mhm.
anybody touches me,
She's allowed to kill them.
yeah, I
She's
can do
allowed to
this
protect herself.
without any trouble. So naturally, during these 3 days that they've made this deal, Jedrick has made a deal with the Demon King himself.
Literally promised his firstborn just to mate Finley.
Yeah.
And she makes another deal with the Demon King. She will mate Jedrick if the king will lift the demon magic from the kingdom and the suppression of everyone's animals, which is be like a wild deal.
Well, and Nightfane had always kind of hinted that, like, when she finally met the Demon King, she should try to make a deal to save herself because he just whatever it is with the curse and the gag that we don't know, he thinks he's doomed.
Mhm.
And so, unfortunately, this day has now come to pass where the Demon King is there and he's going to try to force this thing with Jedrick on her. So she's like, you know what? I should at least make sure I get something out of it.
Mhm.
She's
And of course
doing,
she's being selfless.
yeah, she's doing her best to help the kingdom,
I
but
would be like, I
she's
want all my afterpay paid off. The end.
help a girl out. Well, she's also aware that part of this deal is that Dolian is going to want her to come back to the demon kingdom.
Which really leads to some of my favorite parts of the book because we've been very confined
Hmm.
in the world, but we get to visit. I mean, the more books and as the series progresses, you visit more and more of the world.
Yeah.
But normally, Nifane would be fighting to keep Finley from being kidnapped by the Demon King, obviously. But they leave the following day, and that falls in that 3-day window of their deal where Finley agreed to keep Nifane, like, quote, under control.
Yeah. She's like, of course, this is the timing. So Nifane does what he thinks would be best the night before she leaves, and he bonds Finley because
Yeah, he
it's a
does.
I mean, it's sexy and it's a big deal, but also as an alpha, like once they're fully bonded, this she like will it, like there's a scent that's
Hmm.
secreted that is very clear like she belongs to somebody else. He will kill you if you come for her. And it
Not that that keeps everyone away or like keeps them from being interested.
yeah, it should smell so bad that it pushes people away. And since she's going to the demon kingdom, he knows that the demon magic, like the sex magic, doesn't really work on her, but he doesn't want anybody to think that they can try to take her against her will. So he's
Hmm.
doing everything he can to try to like protect her. It really strengthens their bond.
And book 2 ends with Finley packing her bush. Has he shaved her yet?
Yes.
Okay, she does not pack her bush. I don't know if I would be like, I don't think that I would let someone shave me just because, like, I've seen the way my boyfriend shaves his face.
That's another like
And I don't think that I would survive it.
it's like a sexy erotic scene. Apparently, there's some salon that this kingdom has had before like, before the demons were even there, this kingdom was kinky, and women would go down to the salon to, quote, "get, like, waxed or shaved," but also, like, get a happy ending. So, like, they have a little date night, and he takes her down there and
Date
shaves her.
night, let me shave you. When you said salon, so there's this Pete Holmes stand-up bit where he talks about his mom telling him a story, and she says, "My favorite recording artist, Celine Dijon," and he's like, "Who?" And it ends up being Celine Dion.
Salon dish.
Celine Dijon. But yeah, she leaves for the Demon Kingdom at the end of book 2. So again, a cliffhanger.
Well, and not that this story was slow in any way, but, like, things really kick up and it gets even more interesting because we have plenty of spice, but now we're going to other kingdoms. We're going to meet all kinds of other characters and other creatures. And it just really, all the details are coming in. It's
Mhm.
so fun
The
from this
world
point forward.
expands.
Yeah. So, like, you got a lot of knowledge, had some very interesting experiences. You get attached to this realm that she lives in, and then like her worldview expands. So, book 3, we start with Finley going to the demon kingdom. And naturally, she has to stay in the dungeons of the demon castle, but she meets a lot of other dragons in the dungeons, including another sexy alpha.
Ooh. She also meets Weston, the strongest wolf alpha from the Red Lupine Kingdom, and Weston takes center stage for books 4 and 5, the first of which a Cage of Crimson.
Yeah.
What's the
So,
other one? I think it has Kingdom in the name.
girl, I have to check. But Cage of Crimson is like really so like we see a lot more of Weston in book 4, and then by book 5, we're like getting into Weston's story and his love
And
interest.
we get a lot more Hadriel
Yes,
because
so
he is a wolf
we will
shifter.
continue discussing the, like, second part of this series next week to,
Mhm.
like, really get into their details. But Weston is able to help Finley work with other shifters because it's the other shifters, they're, like, kept on different floors. Like, the dragons all have their own, like, little dungeon cell. The wolves are elsewhere. There's fairies mixed in, and Weston's able to help Finley kinda work with those other shifters in order to escape the dungeons in the kingdom.
Well, the backstory is the Demon King has been taking shifters and creatures from other kingdoms without anyone in those kingdoms knowing.
Yeah, it's like nobody even knows to be mad or, like, to go looking for them. When Finley escapes, she doesn't go straight back to Nifane, which really breaks her heart.
She wants to go to him, but she needs to find an army because shit has escalated before returning because the Demon King will head straight to the Wyvern Kingdom once he realizes they've escaped.
And, like, again, over the years, anybody that was good at their job, including warriors, was killed, so, like, they're gonna be sitting
I would be
ducks.
so safe.
I mean, Hadriel is doing his best to stay as mediocre as possible,
Never do more than your job requires.
which I
That is
gotta.
such an like older boomer trait.
Yeah,
We're like going above and beyond for what? So I can have more work
yeah,
for the same amount of pay?
more
Do what you're
stress.
paid to do.
Which and I without giving away too much for book 3, like, Hadriel and Leela also end up getting themselves captured so they can come and save Finley, and it is so fucking
Yeah,
funny.
because they're like, this is what y'all are doing here?
Yeah, well, because, like, considering all of the sex demons that are in the Wyvern Kingdom, the Demon Kingdom is super vanilla.
Mhm.
Like, the shifters that are in the dungeons will be brought out so that they can be bought and used. Like, they try to, like, punish them as much as possible, but everything is so vanilla that, like, Hadriel and Leela just start laughing because, like,
They're like, let
again,
us show you.
Leela is our BDSM queen, so she is, like, the first time somebody goes to hit her with a whip and she starts, like, moaning, and everybody's like, "Well, what?"
Wait.
What are we supposed to do here? And then it's just, the funniest lines from Hadriel where he's like, "Alright, I'm prepared to take one for the team. Here's how we're gonna handle this." They just, like, wreak havoc and chaos. So
Well,
it's
it
like,
gives comedy or like lightness to
again, it should be very dark,
these shifters being brought up for parties to be used.
but it helped like, the Demon King is so pissed because for whatever reason, he wants things to stay vanilla there, and, like, it amps things up, which fortunately leads them all to an opportunity to escape, where Finley travels to the Flamma Kingdom to help rally more of the dragon shifters to their aid.
And while there, she learns how to shift and fight, but she can feel that something is changing with with her bond to Nifane, and that they're out of time.
Yeah, it goes back to Nifane was afraid to bond her because he didn't want her to be trapped with him, and he had previously made jokes about, like, "Find yourself another alpha out there," and then there is one, so he's having a moment of like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Wait a
Wait a
minute.
second." And, like, she can just tell he's making some decisions that he shouldn't, so she's like, "We gotta go." And, like, she tries to rally the troops. It's too soon for the whole kingdom to have made a decision on what to do, but she takes a big group of the dragons with her, and she flies to the Wyvern Kingdom to help.
War ensues and the Demon King escapes, but who gives a shit because Nifane finally fully gives himself to Finley and they imprint. No one's nicknamed after the Loch Ness Monster, but they do break the curse.
Yeah, that's another thing which they mention, like, there's mating, there's bonding, and there's imprinting in this
Hmm.
story, and you're like, "Wait, what's the distinction? What's the difference here?" But something with the imprinting, because it's not just giving themselves fully to the bond. It's something, like, much deeper.
Like changing on a cellular level? Does
Yeah,
that
like
make
a
sense?
full, like, not just acceptance of the bond, but, like, linking their souls together, but somehow it breaks the curse. Yay! And then now we have book 4 where the Demon King has escaped and Finley and Nifane need to shore up their kingdom. So they start to
Hmm.
travel to other kingdoms to find allies.
And they learn a lot of people are actually in the Demon King's pocket.
Uh-oh. The story culminates in a showdown with Dolly and the Demon King and the rebuilding of the Wyvern
And
Kingdom.
then again, we will talk about Weston's story next week when we cover A Cage of Crimson and A Cage of
That's what it
Kingdoms.
was, Cage of
Cage of
Kingdoms.
Kingdoms, yes.
Because
Lots
Weston
of cages.
we met Weston in book 3, and he starts to play a bigger role in book 4, and so
Oh, it's
then
a big role.
now we're gonna roll with that for book 5, and we get all his naughty, like, wolfy spice. So, like,
Wolfie
well,
Spice.
because like, it's like, wolf shifters apparently are a little different than the dragon shifters, so I am excited to talk about it with you guys next week. We'll just continue because it's so fun when, like, you love a storyline and you love the world and it keeps going and you
Mhm.
get new perspectives, but it doesn't just, like, end altogether. This is just it's such a spicy series. It is a fun read. I really enjoyed reading it, like, while we were traveling to Palm Springs.
Well, K.F. Breene is the queen of well-written, spicy books. Like, spice and world building is a hard balance to find, and then again, she's creative and funny.
Yeah, so funny. It's like there's so much comedy in there that you're like, "Am I should I be upset right now? No, I guess we're okay," and it's just
Yeah, like you were talking about where he's grinding himself into the bed, which does not
yeah.
sound like it would be hot, that is. There's the sex swing.
Yeah.
Finley watching the threesome, and then just again, the side characters like Hadriel is fucking hilarious.
He's just like he does his best to be mediocre, but, like, he lets it slip that he's actually really good at strategy.
Mhm.
So, like,
There's
Hadriel
more to him.
has
Again,
his
he
little
could
niche
be
moment too.
well, there's a lot of series we've read that have funny side characters, but they're kind of one-dimensional. They don't have
Yeah.
their own story. They kind of exist for just for the comedy,
Yeah.
but these characters, you learn more about them, just like in Demon Days, Vampire Nights.
And they play such important roles in their own right. It's a different perspective, but it's still so important. Again, like Hadriel being brutally honest and self-deprecating, and he's so dramatic that it's, like, hilarious, but he's also, like, covering the fact that he's very strategic and he's
Mhm.
come up with a plan to, like, really help them all.
And he gets a bigger role in the next book when we talk about Weston's story. And it's just a good, sexy, lighthearted read where you get the slow burn romance that we love, but you also still get spice.
So much
So then we'll
spice.
talk about A Cage of Crimson next week. And
Yes.
then, yeah, all month we're doing KF Bream. But then there were a couple comments that were telling us to check out The Demigods of San Francisco. So
Yeah.
that's on my list because, I mean, I've read probably 90% of KF Bream's books, but that's not one of the series I've read. So I'm going to read that. And then
Yeah.
we'll talk about that sometime in the future.
There's another one that somebody mentioned, like a midlife magical crisis or something that I'm not sure if I have seen
Oh,
that
yeah,
one.
Magical Midlife Crisis. I know what you're talking
So,
about.
I thought I had read most of the series, but we've got more on our TBR, and I can't wait.
And you know what I think we should do after KF Breen? We could do a whole month of C. and Crawford.
Well, I have been shoring up mermaid books for the
Oh,
summer, so
yeah.
we'll have to pick a month this
Mermay.
summer to talk about mermaid.
I mean, we can't because we're doing Bring It On month in May, but Mermay would have been fun.
We just have a lot of exciting
Lots coming up.
books coming up for everybody.
We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.